welcome everyone to the first ever Turnt Talks time. It is a time where I talk. Simple as that. We're gonna kind of jump right into it here. So, if you didn't know, as of right now, we're a couple days away from the NFL playoffs starting, which means it's time. The NFL playoffs is one of my favorite times of the year, probably right behind March Madness, just because of how crazy March Madness can be. But this is exciting times for me, that's for sure. So today we are going to break down the AFC portion of the playoffs, and I'm going to go through each of the matchups for this upcoming week and kind of my favorite and maybe like a sleeper of who could mix it up a little bit. So first off, we have the final standings here. What a crazy last weekend for the AFC. You had the Ravens, the Steelers, the Colts, the Chargers, and the Raiders were all battling for two positions in the final two spots. As you can see, the Raiders and the Steelers were the ones that came out on top. Uh, the Raiders were able to win what I have deemed the best final game of the regular season that I have seen. And the Steelers were able to beat a Ravens team in OT where Eh, the Ravens kind of were killed by injuries down the stretch and really didn't look like the same football team that they were earlier in the year. Um, and the Chargers and the Ravens obviously lost to those two teams, while the Colts, all they had to do was beat the Jags, and they lost to Clownville. There's not much more to say about that. It wasn't even a close game. It was bad. I don't know how you do that. Anyways, 1 through 7. So Titans secured a 1 seed with their win over the Texans. The Chiefs beat the Broncos to become the 2. The Bills beat the Jets. The Bengals lost to the Browns, but didn't really make too much of a difference. They were either going to be the 3 or 4 seed anyways. Um, so that's how we're here. Uh, so let's start, I guess, with our matchups for this weekend. So the AFC is going to be done a lot quicker than the NFC will be. Um, and I think the AFC is going to make Saturday super exciting. So let's start with the Vegas and Bengals matchup. Um, I'm not someone that projected Cincy to make it right away. I expected them to be close to the playoffs, but I wasn't really expecting them to be a playoff team this year. However, Joe Burrow looks absolutely fantastic. I'm glad that his injury last year didn't affect him at all. And obviously, their stars on offense have shined bright. I mean, Jamar Chase looks like an absolute amazing pick. T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd have been great at the 2 and 3 slots. And then Joe Mixon has returned this year to being insanely good. A great running back to complement a good quarterback. That is for sure. And on the other hand, we got the Raiders, who honestly would have never guessed they were in here as well. Obviously, making the coaching change early in the season around like week 6. Uh, really, really surprising that they're here. They have done a great job to overcome all the adversity that they've faced this year. Derek Carr has played absolutely lights out, one of the best quarterbacks in the league this year. He does have a tendency sometimes to just go cold in a game, but overall he looks like he's the real deal again this year, and he's finally going to play in a playoff match. Hopefully, hopefully there's nothing between now and that game that stops him from doing that. Because the last time when he hurt his ankle, that's just heartbreaking for him not to be able to do it. So I hope this is his first time he can finally get to play in a game, and it's not a bad matchup for them. Outside of him, third and Hunter Renfro has looked absolutely incredible. Darren Waller finally came back from his injury. He's looked good when he's played. Has had a couple injury scares though throughout the year. Their defense has been pretty good, led by Max Crosby. Not too surprised there. I thought their defense was kind of coming together as it was. Hoping that they can get a little bit more from them in this game if they want to win, though. These two match up pretty well into where the defenses are going to have to step up. And that's where I'm a little worried, I guess, for the Raiders, because as explosive as Cincy's offense is, if they are on, and they've been on, 70% of their games this year, the Raiders defense struggles against these high explosive defense or offenses. I I find it hard to believe that they're going to win this game. I still give them a pretty good shot. I think this game is probably more on like a 65-35 towards the Bengals. That might be even a little generous for the Bengals, but they have so many weapons. They had a nice little break week. They didn't have to worry at all last week, so they all got a rest. They obviously are very young, so that's something to worry about in this matchup. But I'm going to take the Bengals. I think Joe Mixon's going to have a really good game, and they're going to be complemented by one of the three wide receivers just going crazy while Burrow looks like a mastermind again. And their defense will do just enough. Not as many weapons on the Raiders team to complement Derek Carr, so we'll see though. You know, Playoffs are crazy. That's all I gotta say about that. So second game here, so New England Buffalo, the rubber match between these two. Buffalo has definitely looked like the better team out of the two. They are the team that won the AFC East. Um, you got Josh Allen, who has taken a step back, I think, from last year. Hasn't looked like the same quarterback. With him, you got Devin Singletary, who's kind of come on a little bit towards the end of the year. I'm kind of hoping that's a thing, because I've all year have been saying that Buffalo needs to run the ball without Josh Allen. Josh Allen cannot be the only effective runner on that team. So if Singletary can keep the running game, you know, at least there, they don't have to be amazing, but just there, they have a good shot of doing really well in the playoffs. Obviously, you got Stephon Diggs at wide receiver, Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley. You got Dawson Knox at tight end. A very good team, very good offense, very explosive when they can be. They've had some duds this year against really bad teams, though. So there is some worry there, especially since New England's defense is so amazing, but we'll get there in a second. And then you have Buffalo's defense, who have done pretty well, have had to deal with the injury to White. Not the easiest injury to, contend with, but they've done a pretty good job of it, and I expect them to do well in these playoffs because of it. New England, starting quarterback, rookie Mac Jones, definitely the rookie that kind of fell into the right, place. He hasn't been the one that really has had to win them games. Their defense has been stellar. Damian Harris has been very good at running back. His stats maybe don't show it as much, but he's been hurt a little bit, and they kind of do a running back by committee. Him, Monte Stevenson, both of those two do a lot of the heavy lifting on that offense, and if they can get going against that Buffalo defense, they can spiral out of control. I mean, they ran all over them in their first meeting, and granted, that game was crazy weather conditions and all that, but this is outside in Buffalo again, so it's not going to be the easiest game for Buffalo if they can't stop the run. I do think for this game, though, that I will probably choose Buffalo to win it. New England's defense is crazy. They got J.C. Jackson at corner, obviously, and Matthew Judon and all those big important players, but I think Buffalo's been here last year. I think that they're the team kind of that contend with the top dogs. I have Buffalo in this game. Moving on. So then our final AFC matchup is, in my opinion, the worst one for this weekend. Um, Pretty much the retirement party for Ben Roethlisberger, if I had to guess. We have Kansas City and Pittsburgh and KC. So Kansas City, obviously, Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Darrell Williams, Derek Gore. A lot of really, good talent just right there alone. And then you have Travis Kelce. You got Tyreek Hill. Just, more of the obvious ones. Those guys have put up numbers all year long. Kelce had a couple cold stretches, but overall, offense still as explosive as it has been in the past. Their defense has been kind of hit or miss. Beginning of the year looked like the worst defense in the league. Could not stop anything. It did not matter who they were playing. They just the ball was being run all over them. Their D-backs weren't covering well enough. Everything. Chris Jones is a big reason why they've kind of turned that around. In the games that he hasn't played, they haven't recorded sacks. But when he is in the game, they record sacks. And, sacks are pretty important in the game of football. And so he's going to be playing in this game. And listen, Pittsburgh's offense really hasn't been moving the ball that well. So that should be a good omen for this KC defense that kind of went into towards the end of the year kind of sluggish again, looking a little more like the first weeks than the middle weeks. But they should perform well enough here to get the win. Now let's talk about Pittsburgh still, just in case. You never know. Like I said, playoffs are crazy. Uh, Ben Roethlisberger, kind of a shell of himself of years past. He is more of a check down quarterback now, and he's got lots of weapons, but you got to be able to make big plays on big situations, and that's where I'm a little worried with the offense if they can do that. Running back Najee Harris, his first year in the league, obviously has done incredibly well, and I really do think that he has a lot of potential. He led the league in touches for rookies overall, and yeah, I mean he was a great fantasy player maybe, but stats wise on the field only averaging like 3.9 yards per touch, which isn't amazing. And then at wide receiver, you still got Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool, along with they got Ray McLeod. Um, Deontay Johnson I think is a top 20 wide receiver, and then Chase Claypool kind of inconsistent. Um, Seems to lack a little discipline at times, but overall really good wide receiver as well. And then their defense is what has won them games and is their way to pushing for this win. They have the guy that tied Michael Strahan and TJ Watt. He is special. And he's going to have to be very special in this game if they're to beat Kansas City. I don't see it. It's going to be hard for them. In Kansas City, Sunday night, you know, a lot of people probably will say the Pittsburgh really shouldn't be here, but they are. And I think this is probably the worst team in the playoffs this year. Good on them to make it, but I think this is a one and done type of situation. So let's talk about kind of my favorite to come out of the AFC. And it's not going to be any surprise here that it's going to be the number one team with the Titans. I know there's Kansas City, and they've been the team to make it out the last couple years. However, the Titans looked like the best team for the first 9 weeks of the year. And then Derrick Henry got hurt. And they kind of, fell apart for a little bit, didn't look like they were anything for a couple weeks. And then they hit their stride again without Derrick Henry. Deonta Foreman, Dontrell Hillard, both stepped in, played incredibly well at running back. And then they had injuries to A.J. Brown, to Julio Jones. Those were huge because they're throwing to basically nobodies to a lot of people. Westbrook-Akeen, he was their best wide receiver for a couple weeks. You know, nothing against him. He's just not an AJ Brown or Julio Jones. Uh, those two finally came back, and their offense seemed to mesh a little bit more. And I'm looking forward to that mesh along with Derrick Henry returning in the divisional round. I don't know if there is a defense, if there is a team that wants to play Derrick Henry. Tennessee has beaten a lot of these top teams with the man, and if they can redo that magic and go at these teams again and get the similar results I think they can get, this team is a Super Bowl contender. They can win this year, even with Ryan Tannehill being kind of lackluster. Derrick Henry is that good, so watch out for them. My one underdog, I guess you could say here. Personally, I favor the 1 through 4 in this situation. Those 4 teams are, I think, just a little bit ahead of all the wild card teams. All the division winners are just, they're there for a reason. Um, my upset pick to beat the Titans, I think, would actually be the Bills. I do think they match up just a little bit better than the Chiefs do. The Bills just have a little bit better of a defense, and Josh Allen is able to make big plays with his legs and his arm against a defense with the Titans that can be a little hit or miss at times, but they've definitely improved there as well. Um, Overall, I think it's going to go through Tennessee, and if someone can take them out, that's probably your team that's going through. But it's the playoffs. The Chiefs are the team that have been here. They're probably the favorites in a lot of people's eyes still to make it through. Um, but give me the Titans or the Bills to make it through for the AFC this time. Next video, we'll talk a little bit about these 7 teams right here and kind of how they fit into this situation as well. And then we got lots of things to talk about with all of these teams eventually. But for now, my time's done. See ya.